The revolutionary new environmentally friendly power source, Fragments of Silicon.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me as always, our Galaxy and Petty fan. Right, so let's get to the news. Galax, why don't you lead us off this week?
Galax?
What?
So you're gonna start with the news?
Sorry, I missed it.
God damn it.
I'm just kind of out of it because we had a snowstorm this past weekend and then a rainstorm last night. And thankfully nothing bad happened with either one of them, although they threw off the work schedule a little bit with a late start and a work from home day, even though it was pretty much fine by... It could have been 2 late starts anyway. So I'm a little bit off my balance. And this coming weekend is when my family Christmas thing got rescheduled too, because it was supposed to be last weekend, but it got canceled because of aforementioned snowstorm. So that'll be another thing that I have to do. Let's see. So I've mostly just been trying to maintain equilibrium, getting a little bit frustrated because weekend Pathfinder game keeps getting postponed or canceled for various reasons, but hopefully that will start not happening soon. And video game wise, been doing a little bit of playing around with some different things, but mostly still been playing Pokemon Scarlet. I have pretty much finished the story stuff for the Indigo Disc, but I haven't really done any of the inviting gym leaders to visit because my team is actually not ready for a lot of fights. I shouldn't say. I have a relatively wide stable of Pokemon, but I have not raised any of them to about level... Okay, I've raised a couple of them to about level 85, which is where you want to be for this, I think.
Yeah.
I can win, but it takes a lot more items than I want to spend, and that makes it take longer.
Yeah, and this is like set to some of the toughest AI Pokemon has had in a long time.
Mm-hmm. Plus about half of them are double battles, so...
Yeah. So you can't just brute force it like you used to with a level 100 of your favorite and just go stroll.
You can, but I mean, I have level 100 stuff, but that's for specifically for raids, and those are just for a different purpose. So I'm considering dumping a little bit of candy into some of my guys, so to bump them up to... Anyway, but anyway, the reason why I wanted to try and get that done is because the epilogue drops tomorrow at, I guess, 9 a.m. Eastern. Adjust for your relative time zone.
Yeah.
I obviously won't be playing it right then, but I will probably be checking it out in the evening. There's also a lot of what's name. I've been playing a lot of BBQs online with friends because it's fun to run around and do random stuff, and also you certainly need a lot of that particular currency to upgrade stuff properly and use the item printer and invite people to fight and stuff. So that's about where I am. Oh yeah, and there's a Splatfest this weekend too, so that'll be another thing.
Okay. So Betty, you're up.
Well, we too got the hellacious amount of snow here. It wasn't as bad as they were predicting. They were predicting we were going to be getting like over a foot between 2 days. Luckily, we got
we got about a foot.
Yeah, we only got like less than 5 inches, which is a lot, but it's still not a foot. And because of the weather, I was not able to go to my last eye doctor appointment, so that's been rescheduled. And not really a whole lot's been going on. Me and Ogre did finish Final Fantasy 16. We have completed the main story and the current DLC. So we're just waiting for the next one to come out later in the year. I believe that is in the spring. And we have also started Dragon Ball Z Kakarot because it was cheap on PSN.
That's the one that runs you through the story of the series, right?
Just Z.
That's the series. That's part of the series.
Well, there is a DLC for the 23rd World Tournament, which is, the climax of Dragon Ball. And then I believe there's also the story of Bardock, because at this point it's illegal to not retell the story of Bardock in any Dragon Ball media.
Uh-huh.
And then I believe there's some super stuff in there. But for the most part,
it's an action type game.
It's an action RPG.
Yes. Yeah, but it goes through the story of the thing as opposed to just being like a fighting game or an MMO or whatever. Because there have been a whole bunch of other types of Dragon Ball games recently.
Yeah, it goes through the story of Base Z unless you buy any of the DLC. Which, I mean, you're still going from Saiyans to Buu, which that's a pretty sizable chunk. So yeah, that's been fun. I need to get back more into Pokemon. I just been I think the point quest grind thing is the thing I probably hate the most.
It goes so much faster if you play with friends online.
Maybe.
You get around 10,000 points an hour with 4 people.
You might get recruited into helping on that.
I don't mind. With one person, you'll get like maybe because the thing is the way it works is you have 3 active quests at a time, and after you do enough of those, you get a special quest that's worth more. But when you have multiple people, they can have similar or the same quest and other quests that overlap. Like,
I was about to say, then you
take
have 12 active
take a swimming
quests.
Photograph. Yeah, take a photograph swimming and take a photograph in the coastal biome overlap pretty easily. Plus, when you're doing it in a group, you get group quests that are worth even more. Some of which are an enormous pain in the ass, but...
Noted.
Anyway, I wouldn't mind doing it with you at some point.
Maybe. We'll see how life exists.
Yeah, but that's a lot better for... Because you need, 12,000 points total to unlock the starters being available in the 4 different areas, and then...
Something like that.
And then, at least another couple thousand for various and sundry upgrades that you're going to actually want.
I kind of hope with the update, with the epilogue coming, they kind of nerf some of the point things. But that's just me, because I've seen a lot of people online not like it either. I get it goes by faster if you play online, but, that requires me finding people to play online with. And for some people, it also requires them buying the Nintendo Switch Online subscription.
Oh no, stuff that makes you have to pay them more money. I'm sure they're terrified at that.
And as far as...
I'm still on the cheap Nintendo Switch Online. So.
Oh, same. I only have the family membership because sister, and now if my niece keeps her grades up, she will also be added to it, because why not? We have free slots.
But yeah, that's still cheaper than the additional $15 a month or whatever for N64 games.
Yeah. And like the N64 games would be maybe the only thing I'd be interested, because spoilers, I have just about all the Genesis games I could want to play. I have them physically.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as like what I've been playing, I recently procured Returnal for the PS5, because it was like one of the, at least it was console exclusive, but one of the exclusive games I was looking into getting for it because it looked interesting. And so far I've been enjoying it. With it being a roguelite, it has been infuriating at times because roguelite. And yeah, I think that's it for me.
I guess it's my go. Let's see. Since I live in Florida, I did not get a snowstorm the other day, but
Do you
I
want
did
it?
get a. I'm not finished. We did get inclement weather, just in the form of a moderate, not even thunderstorm, just moderately windy rainstorm. Like, it's the advantage of living in Florida. You do not see snow. Like, forever, that is worth. Which is the trade-off are the summers are unbearable. And most of the other seasons. Let's see. I am in my 20th hour of Tales of Symphonia. See, at the Wind Shrine, if I'm remembering correctly. And let's see, might be taking care of a cat for a time soon.
Oh man.
One of my brother's cats might need a place to stay while, he ends up in transition, let's say. Like,
it's just to get his life sorted, not to protect them from a vindictive person, right?
Yeah. It's like a finding a new place to live situation.
Yeah. Because believe me, our family has dealt with enough of the vindictive ex having one of their pets put down because monster.
Like, but, hopefully, it's like, as far as I know, the cats are fine. And plans have been changing quite a lot, such as the nature of the situation. So I may end up not taking care of a cat for a while. So it's one of those situations. Can't quite, call it a Schrodinger's cat situation, because it's all theoretical. But anyway, so I think that's my news for the week. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week are Jeff Mundee and Chris Schreiber of Reframe Games.
Hello. Hey, how's it going?
Hello. So how are you both doing tonight?
Go ahead, Chris. I'm doing pretty good. I'm just hanging out with my cats here.
My
dog is waiting to interrupt me. You just went outside, and as soon as I get going here, she's going to be barking, and yeah,
that's usually the way.
Right. So how we like to get started formally here is we like to get to know the people behind the games, the studio, and all of that jazz. And we do that by beginning with this question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Chris, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've always been, really interested in playing video games and just the general idea of making games as well. I have a background mostly in sound design and music composition, which I did a lot of that for games as well. And then I met Jeff. I started working in other capacities with project management and some aspects of game design as well. I've been having a lot of fun doing that stuff. Yeah, but I really like every aspect of making games.
And so for me, I don't know. I always played games and really thought that they were pieces of shit and that I could do a better job. So it made me really angry for a long time. And then I just sort of bent that anger into a motivation that's carried me through the last, 25 years of making video games. So I've been teaching game design for 15 years. I've been making games for a lot longer than that. And yeah, I've worked at EA and Activision and all that stuff. Done a lot of indie stuff, done a lot of games for good. And yeah, so here we are with a company trying to see if we can't solve this problem of games that try and do things not for their own sake, but for the users or the communities or the industry, not being that great or fun to play, not a whole lot of value. And then retail games, obviously, they're built to hook you, and they do a real good job at it. And like, why isn't there a lot of examples of games that can do both? Like maybe there is a way. And so kind of want to try and see if we can't make a game that can stand on its own at retail and be fun to play in and of itself, but also hopefully offer some value to the player or maybe the community.
Like, that's a curious statement. Like, what are you defining as value here?
Mostly in this one, it's mental wellness. So, not unlike Celeste, sort of touching on some things around anxiety, we want to touch on some things around anxiety. So, we worked with a few counselors on this game to sort of get it right on that note, and hopefully we came close. And some people might, part of in counseling, you sort of get to this place of naming things, and when you name it, you can sort of like handle it, deal with it, understand it, etc. So that was a big part of what we want to achieve here is sort of understanding some of the names for some of these things that dog us in our lives.
I'm like, I gotta say, yeah, this is a path that is not all that well traveled, but I imagine that making a game about mental unwellness is a bit of a tightrope walk.
Big time.
Yeah.
This is why we went to professionals. Yeah.
Indeed. And what's the origin of such a desire? Like why focus on mental wellness, specifically anxiety disorders?
Sure. Like our previous game guide was around that as well. It was mainly dealing with overwhelming anxiety. You're fighting it already. So the last game guide, it was pretty well received critically, but didn't make any money because it wasn't really made to be a successful retail game. It was more of like a project for Games for Good and that kind of stuff. So that's like sort of pedigree to a degree is like we're already in that space, already sort of dealing with some of the fencing. You can't make a game that's a cure, like a medical thing, without a whole bunch of regulatory stuff. So the thing around wellness is little bit safer and easier to deal with, a little bit more room to move. So that was kind of a space we already understood. So doing a game around this was already sort of something we could approach maybe more readily than some of the other topics that we'd like to cover, like the industry itself. Not that we haven't explored those, but only at like game jams and stuff like that. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons. The other reason is that this is a personal story, right? This is like, the main developer on this game. This is like them reflecting on their own challenges in their own life. So it's a sort of an experiment in game design as well to see if someone's sort of heart can come through in the final product for people. Like if you do production more authentically for games, and having an auteur figure in a game is in game production is really tricky, right? As you know, games are a team effort, and so to make sure that we're maintaining that flavor and that voice of that authentic experience for a single person who has work, as a team on this, that was a really important priority for this game.
I'm like, well, the indie scene is interesting because, well, oftentimes we get people who are what we call solo devs. Like, they handle pretty much all aspects of game development. Like, but yeah, but also on the indie scene, we do get small teams, and I'm wondering how many people are developing this game.
That's a tricky question. It depends on how you look at it. We've had a lot of people contribute to the project. How many people actually make it? Probably around 5, I'd say.
Yeah, it's been mainly Keenan who did all of the development, and like I said, he was the main developer on this project. It's kind of an homage to his experiences and his fears, and yeah, so a lot of the concepts of it are individualistic of a solo dev like that. But what we've done is we've leaned in on a number of other areas. Like I've done the sound design, for instance. We had a music composer, we had external artists working on stuff as well, and we've done quite a bit of additional development. But yeah, Keenan was the main person, and it's been about a team of 5 consistently, I would say.
Sam's done awesome work on this, and
Yes,
Nick
awesome
was optimizing, especially a couple months ago he did a bunch of stuff on that. But yeah, there's definitely been other coders and other artists and other people working on the game. And obviously me and Chris are involved. So yeah, somewhere around 5 people, I'd say, from time to time.
That's a fairly typical indie team, just by numbers. But it sounds like there's a lot of camaraderie around this project.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like we're on every day. Every day is tweaking this and that, and figuring out ways to make it better. And that's been the ongoing process. Sort of take our time with it, and wanted to make sure that we had it pretty well together before we release. That said, there's already things that we're sort of pushing off to like post-release stuff. Languages is going to be one of them. I don't think we're going to have our localization in place the way we wanted to. And then there's the Ultimate Nightmare mode stuff, which is there's a lot of Dark Souls fan inspiration in this game. So you're gonna find your ultimate challenges in that Ultimate Nightmare mode, which is going to be sort of a post game thing, more exposition, some unanswered questions get answered, and the challenge is high.
Like, though this game doesn't look like it's playing like Dark Souls.
Wait till you get into the late combat. It's you don't have your dodge yet.
Well, Dark Souls combat in 2D is always kind of a tricky affair.
Tell me
because, yeah, like especially since what you don't get in a lot of 2D games is that kind of methodical combat. You know, the not just the rollback and all that, but you know, you got to strike at the right time, kind of deal.
Oh
How
yeah.
how are you achieving all that with this game?
So there's the detail in the combat is I would call it a little extreme. So there's like frames and there's frame cancels and iframes, and the idea is that people will sort of approach those depths in the in that late game in the Ultimate Nightmare mode. In the normal game, normal play, I mean, it's helpful, of course, to explore some of those things, but I wouldn't say that it's required. And yeah, you're doing the right thing right now. Run like hell because you don't have anything to answer for this guy.
Yeah, a lot of the experience of the game is knowing when to run and when to fight, essentially. And eventually you will overcome the monsters, but it's going to take quite a bit of challenge to get there, I think.
Yeah, that's the idea: is overcome these representations of anxiety, these themes, and when you sort of overcome these pieces, that's when you can fight back.
Yeah, that is a stark difference than when anxiety and fear usually gets represented in games. It's like a horror, especially survival horror. Where you might not necessarily have any way of fighting back.
Yep.
So
we want that here. We want the player to feel that for sure. That you have no way of fighting back in the nightmare when you first start out. And then you have to sort of come to understandings around these things by sort of moving through some of the content and coming to grips with the fear, I guess, in a way, moving through this guy's nightmares. And when you do that, you sort of get the motivation or the understanding of it enough to be able to fight back bit by bit. And the whole skill tree and like the itemization, all that stuff, like all the collectibles and things, like all that stuff like feeds back in to those themes in each act. So we're hoping that it's a nice cohesive experience when you start to get that picture of everything sort of feeding back in on itself based on these themes.
Yeah, I suppose that also begs the question: has the fears been gamified here?
Yeah, I would say a little.
Okay. More specifically, do you have anything like a sanity meter, an adrenaline meter, any sort of like, representation of your fear level?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if you got the flashlight in that first part. I don't think you got it yet. So the flashlight is a comfort, right? It's like something that chills you out. You can, when you're in light, you can see, and being scared of the dark, that's something people can relate to. So when you have your flashlight out, your stress doesn't go up anymore. It stops your stress from going up. If you get stressed out too much, you start to lose health. So you want to keep your stress level down. If the monster sees you, your stress level spikes. You don't want that to happen either. But if your flashlight is out, the monster can find you a lot easier too. So there's a little bit of a balance play that you have to deal with between being seen by the monster, getting chased, and I mean, unless you're real good at evasion, you're probably going to die. You get a little bit of chance to get away, but it's a pretty rough ticket when you get seen. Especially you're playing it on normal mode, the middle one.
Petty?
Do you know which
I think
one
you chose the easy mode.
Yeah, I
did?
hit the
Okay.
easy one.
Good choice. The middle one is actually pretty challenging. So they have to interplay or balance between the two being seen or visibility meter and the stress meter. Those are the two main things. You can There's some like calming herbal tea you can buy at the shop to, give yourself a boost to keep that stress down, and some other things that you can do, like pet the cat to reduce your stress. But the interplay between the stress and the visibility is something actually in this demo, which is a few months old at this point. You'll see that the HUD is the old one, where the visibility meter is really far away from the stress meter. And so one of the things we took from the playtesting that happened was to move those meters closer together and merge them up so people could really readily see the interplay there, the change in stress going up, but your visibility is taken care of, or your stress being managed, but you're way more visible. So you're risking more.
Mm.
And the other thing
Now-
too is you can't attack when your flashlight is out. So if you get into an encounter, you kind of have to choose whether you can manage your stress that way, or if you want to stand and fight against the monster.
Hmm. So are you just dealing with this one monster, or are there like many monster types?
Yeah, each act has several monsters, but there's one like sort of main one that represents the theme of it. So the first one is the graduate, and he's a representation of fear of failure. So you'll see a lot of dialogue, like there was dialogue in the intro already about, what is this work? This work is garbage. You're never going to make anything of yourself, like that kind of stuff. And then later on, it's going to be fear of regret. So that really manifests in like time spent, right? Like time spent with family and that kind of stuff. Regret and regret about death and things like that is a big thing. Like losing your parents, losing your grandparents, that kind of stuff. Or like when you yourself are old and dying, like do you regret how you spent your life? So there's light themes like that, just fun stuff that whatever. And then the other one is social judgment. So the judge, who's featured on our key art, is a manifestation of sort of like that perception of a hive mind mentality, and that one takes place in a mall. I don't know if you've ever gone to a big mall and like felt like everybody's like looking at you, or like walk down the hall at school and like everybody's looking at you, that kind of thing. So that's a good anxiety one. I certainly can relate to that one, and not that I can't relate to the other ones too, but that's another one that I like, and that one's in there. There's a direct sort of facing your own self and your sense of self, which is that one. We sort of call it the heart, but yeah, that's another monster sort of way late game. So those are your big ones that sort of hunt you and that you have to deal with, like with that mechanic, that visibility mechanic. And then the rest of the monsters are sort of support cast for that. So there's like, this eyeball security guard thing in the mall, for example, that's like, it's judging you even more because how security guard, that kind of social pressure. Accusing you without accusing you almost. And then, just stuff like that, all kinds of things. There's, representations of those themes effectively, and you have to fight them.
And what sort of weaponry do you acquire outside of this knife?
Yeah, you start out with a crappy knife. It used to be a crappy stick, and now it's a knife because the stick is now an upgrade to this, and you'll get it shortly, actually, I think. You're trying to leave. You don't want to be here. You're like, no, get me out. And so, yeah, you get a bunch. So later on, you get a sword that's a fun little homage there. And yeah, there's a bunch of different weapons. There's a bunch of different things you can equip, different souls that you can equip that give you different buffs, lots of consumable items, and lots of different abilities that you can equip as well that you learn as you go through the game and find those. And then there's a skill tree as well, which lets you upgrade a lot of those skills that you find. So like right now, I think you can only strike once, maybe twice in a combo. But later on, you get some pretty crazy combos and like some attacks that you can do with the flashlight only, or like combo attacks that you can do with the flashlight and your equipped weapon, stuff like that.
Yeah. And how long would you say the game is?
I don't remember what we clocked it at during NeckFest. Do you remember? It's like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, I would say like for a a playthrough where you're not pausing to read and to actually explore very much, it would be 4 or 5 hours, but it could easily be eight hours or so, I would say.
Yeah. Especially if you want to figure out this guy.
Yeah, that guy. And then there's some post game content as well. So there's some of that stuff. You could easily get 8 to 10 hours, I would say.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, there's lots of little Easter eggs and meat to things.
Yeah.
So shifting a bit, this game is called Noctia Somnia. Like, is that like actual Latin, or is it just something that sounds Latin-y?
They're actual words. So Noxia is toxic, and Somnia is dream.
I see what you're going for here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so,
on that note, we've talked quite a bit about the themes of the game, but what about the story and the characters? Like, who are you?
who are you? Yeah. You are a sort of average Canadian, university aged video game enthusiast who is struggling with that sort of 20-something anxiety of wrestling with life,
Like, that's a specific profile in some regards. Like, and I'm assuming like he's Canadian because you're located in Canada.
Yep.
Yes. The fact that he's in Canada isn't overly important to the story, but yes.
It's totally important. Who is in the States would be completely different.
There's a Canadian flag in there somewhere. Let's just say that.
I mean, it would depend on what part of Canada.
Yeah.
I'd imagine. Like, if it's Quebec, there's a lot more French involved.
Yeah, there isn't a huge, strong, French representation here, I don't think.
Yeah, there's Pierre. Pierre is
Oh yeah, I forgot about Pierre.
He's a French chef.
Yeah. Classic. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll meet lots of characters that I think they're really likable, and some who are really mysterious, and you'll learn more about them as you go. Learn some of their stories.
Like this scene here, this shop, right? Like this is all foreshadowing different stuff that happens in the game that's coming up and stuff. There's a arcade machine there behind the shopkeeper that's got guide on it because that's the previous game that we did there. Yeah, there's like all kinds of detail here that's delicious for us. And as you play through the game, some of that stuff starts to make a whole lot of sense. Or like the dragon, the cat, the sword, like all that stuff is as you go back to the shop, you'll be like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, will players have to be familiar with your previous game guide?
No, that's like the only reference to guide in here. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that applies as well to the likes of Quiet Islands and Cubits.
Yeah. Yeah, working on it.
Like, right, those are future projects, but sometimes people slip in references to future works in like past stuff. Just nobody will get them at that point because it's not out yet.
We very much enjoy things like that. You're right. Hey, look, another Canada flag. See, it's on the flagpole right there.
Yeah.
I think that might be the only Canadian play.
No, there's one on the wall in the school too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's got to be at least 2 then.
Something legal requirement, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I mean, if you listen to the CRTC,
And aren't school buses in the States blue or something?
Now they're yellow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm like, they are a very specific shade of yellow called school bus yellow.
There you go.
Like,
Canada stole it.
Yeah. Anyway, so how long has Noxia Summona been in development for?
2 years ish.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Like, that's a fair amount of time for what you've got on display here. Like, I'm being honest, a bit on the short side.
Yeah. Slow
Yeah.
and steady has been the development. Very sort of detailed and methodical on it. Lots of iteration.
Yeah.
So way more, hopefully, quality over quantity for it. So we'll see what people think, but that's sort of the approach there.
Well, I think you mentioned that you did have the demo for this available for the Steam Next Fest a few months ago. What was the feedback like?
Feedback is generally positive. The trouble that we have is getting people to try it. Like the downloads for it were not very high. I think if people would give it a shot, I think we would have gotten a little bit more. Right away. Wow.
Good job.
No, yeah. No running into the electricity. Good job.
I've played these types of games for a very long time.
Knowing what to do. There you go. There's your first your soul of vigor. So you can get a little bit of health regen, which will help out. You need to pull out your flashlight though, or your stress is going to get too high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're playing this on silent too, there's a lot of audio cues to help you with that. I mean, obviously there's visual cues as well, but yeah, if you had sound effects, you would hear your heart start to beat faster and other things going on as well.
I didn't realize he had it with no audio on his end.
Yeah,
So,
I have it muted just because trying to balance audio levels is a pain.
Right.
Yeah, he's got to listen to us.
Yeah.
Right. That's mainly why we, when we got the footage playing, or when Teddy's playing a game, when we're doing an interview, the audio will be muted because we don't want to have to deal with the audio drowning out the commentary. I mean, I know some people don't like that, but our priority is the interview over the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, so how much more work would you say Noxia has before it's ready to go?
I wouldn't say a lot more work. I mean, we've got the story complete. I'm pretty sure we're at the point now where we can get through everything, and it's just a matter of getting all of the bugs fixed that we've noticed in testing and stuff like that. But we're getting very close.
Indeed. I see on the Steam page here there is a release date of January 25th, which is about 2 weeks away.
2 weeks away, yeah.
So it sounds like you're not anticipating any last-minute delays.
No, I wouldn't say. I mean, we're working hard on polishing up that last finishing touch, but yeah, you can definitely complete the whole game right now, get through to the end. There's definitely going to be some content coming later for post game and the additional difficulty that Jeff was talking about before. But yeah, and obviously localization. We're not going to have all of the languages in there for the first round,
Right.
but we'll do updates later, and we'll keep working at it with that stuff.
I suppose the question there is, what languages are going to be available day one?
I believe just English day one. French and Spanish will probably be coming soon after that, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And we could do any number of languages after that.
And how far out would you say Nightmare Mode is?
That's a good question. I don't know. We had Nightmare Mode until recently, but then with some of the changes, I think there's some rebalancing to do. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't say it'd be like, I don't know, say a month or maybe 3 months, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's not going to be a long time, though.
No, because the functionality of the Nightmare Mode is done. It's just a matter of rebalancing and making sure it fits in with the entire story.
And get all those bosses, right? There's
Yeah.
all kinds of like other extra bosses, you know.
Yeah.
So all those extra bosses and the extra content unlock stuff, that's all got to work. It's all got to be rebalanced. Like those boss fights need to be redone.
And I suppose on that note, any plans for like a boss rush mode or time trials?
Those things have definitely been talked about. There is a built-in speedrun timer. So we want people to speedrun it for sure. And check that out. Very interested in that.
Yeah, our developer loves to speed run it. Actually, every time he tests the game from start to finish, he always tries to see how fast he can beat it.
Well, that does actually beg a question. Is the ending tied to completion time?
No.
No.
That's interesting.
No, ending is not currently tied to completion time.
But resolving another an anxiety of a different sort. Because time pressures are a thing.
You're into trouble. You got seen, and your stress was already really high. There's nose diving now. That's stress. But you're being.
So now we're running from a ghost barber.
Yep, ghost barber.
I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, clearly, Scott Pilgrim here is worried about having his ears cut off.
Yep.
Anyway, so is this game launching on Steam or is it coming to like the Nintendo Switch?
Yeah, so we're working to get it on the Nintendo Switch. There's a few hurdles to that, but yeah, that's certainly where we want this to end up. Steam launch is sort of a validation, and so I want to get it on Steam, get the feedback, polish it up, get that Nightmare Mode in there, all those languages and all that stuff, and then bring it to Switch.
Okay.
Oh no, the first step.
It was a good death.
Yeah. They got their wish. Anyway, so are you looking to do any actual DLC for the game?
Not currently, no. DLC isn't in the scope. We want to be able to deliver a full deal here, and then we're going to be moving on to probably a sequel after this, not DLC.
And have you worked out pricing for Noctia?
Somewhat. It's sort of in debate right now. Like, launching without the Nightmare Mode and stuff like that. Like, whatever the price is going to be, we're probably going to like set a price of it and then like discount it until we can get the sort of the full scope that we think it deserves.
Right. So before I continue on, I'll see if my colleagues here have any further questions about Noctia.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. I've just been following along as best I can with what Petty's doing.
Fair enough.
Oh, you got the roots. That's my favorite color.
Indeed. But yeah, I did want to ask you a bit about your upcoming projects that aren't Noctia Summoner. As you got 3 here: Quiet Islands, Cubics, and Guide 2.
Right. So the Guide 2 is a back burner project that we've been kicking around for as long as we've been in development for Noxia, actually. And we've taken a bunch of different approaches to it, but we're not really happy with, where it's pushing us forward. Like Guide is sort of the OG, and when we do a new guide, we want it to be, kind of more flagship than the original guide was, and sort of try and do it justice. So we're sort of taking our time with that. So no release date or any of that stuff yet, but we do have some pretty good core gameplay going along for that now. Much better platforming than we did before. I'd say the first one was more like playing, I don't know, one of the Sonics, and the new one is more akin to something like Celeste. So, so that's all I can really say about that one for now. And that may change. So, that's where that is. Cubics is going to be coming out shortly after Noxia, if we stick to the plan. And that one is going to be a puzzler to start, and then it's going to be much more about sort of a Mario Maker, make a puzzle and share it with friends kind of a thing. So that's going to be fun. And yeah, the graphics have come along really well, especially the last little while. And yeah, it's going to be on mobile and on Steam. And then there's the
Quiet Islands.
Quiet Islands. I was thinking of Quiet Islands though. So Quiet Islands, that's a really casual, sort of relaxing, sort of city builder kind of game. It's a little different than a lot of the other stuff that we have tried before, but it's kind of that sort of, just, I don't know, like, what's a good example of that? Like Town Scrapers, that kind of stuff, or like
Dorf Romantic.
Dorf Romantic, yeah, that's another
which is quickly becoming one of my favorite games now.
Yeah.
It all sounds pretty interesting, and some of them are promising. Hopefully, you get the let's say King Set of Guide 2 worked out. And yeah, I think I've run through my gamut of questions. Once again, anything about the other projects from you two?
I think I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, cool. So, yeah, I want to thank you two for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here today. It was lovely hearing about Noxia Somina. Certainly has a lot of promise, and we look forward to reviewing the full game when it comes out in a few weeks. But until then, once again, the game is Noxia Somina. It's currently available for pre-order on Steam. Price to be determined, but you can add it to your wish list right now, and I would recommend doing so. So, Petty, play us to the next segment. All right. So welcome to the topic of discussion for the week. So this one is quite the hot button that came out of seemingly nowhere. And that is, well, the internet has been abuzz with the notion that Microsoft is going third party. I think that might be just a tad overblown.
Yeah, it's
I'm pretty sure this is mounted out of a molehill stuff.
I wouldn't go that far in just that dismissive either.
This is less third party, like Sega going third party because the console thing died, and more going third party to get their games on more places.
Possibly, we don't actually know the rationale here, but because keep in mind everything that's been going on is just in the realm of the rumor mill.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's been confirmed.
It hasn't even actually been confirmed that these games are getting non-Xbox console ports.
Right. So everything that's being said right now is just a bit of conjecture.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but even if they are, I think going from they've decided that timed exclusivity is enough to Microsoft is going to stop making game consoles a little bit fast, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Especially since they have a number of exclusives still announced, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and frankly, I think it makes good economic sense. And with the way that games are kind of going economically, where like lifetime value still counts for a lot, but immediate early thing sales is one of the biggest things people look at. So I don't think I think timed exclusivity is still enough to get most of the impact for that.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, but I personally think people are thinking too broadly about this. Because first, let's get into the actual games that have been rumored to be leaving the Microsoft ecosystem. Because I think these rumors popped up like Monday morning. Because like some insider on some podcast mentioned that a Game of the Year candidate from Microsoft was going to go multi-platform. And that soon was identified as Hi-Fi Rush. Now, let us look at the individual details of Hi-Fi Rush. First of all, it's a Bethesda game, not an Xbox Game Studios game.
Mm-hmm.
Like you might be asking, what's the difference? Well, let's go back to what Microsoft said about Bethesda games and exclusivity back when they bought them a couple of years ago. They said all the legacy stuff was going to stay multi-platform. All of the live service games were going to still be multi-platform. And then as far as future games went, they literally said on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I imagine if they made whatever Elder Scrolls 6 be to be specifically Xbox exclusive, there would be riots in the streets.
Well, I mean, that's happening. We know, like, thanks to the I want to say the lawsuit or the like some regulatory thing, might have been leaked, but we know Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be exclusive to the Xbox. Like,
at least for now.
Well, I mean, Starfield is.
Yeah, but Starfield sucks, so
that's irrelevant.
Yeah, fair. I just want to get my
like
dad
you're so
Starfield.
sure Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be good.
Starfield and Redfall.
I forgot Redfall existed.
Well, remember, Redfall was the first major ZeniMax / Bethesda / in this case Arcane Studios title to be presented in the Xbox era. Like, it's just, it was a disaster. The developers knew it was a disaster. They were hoping Microsoft was going to get rid of the disaster, but, they kind of needed a game to justify the purchase, and, Redfall happened to be it. Like, now, the thing about Hi-Fi Rush is it's never been seen as a game on the level of Redfall or Starfield.
They literally shadow dropped it during a Xbox Live thing.
Well, and it has no way built into the game for you to keep giving them money after you've bought it.
This is true. Like, basically,
I kind of forgot that Hi-Fi Rush was Bethesda.
Yeah, it's specifically Tango Gameworks, which is unusual in and of itself because Hi-Fi Rush is about the complete opposite of everything else Tango Gameworks has ever done, which was the point. Like, but yeah, it's like I think Microsoft decided that the shadow drop method was the best possible usage of Hi-Fi Rush. Now, and the size, the size of the project is also important into the rationale here. If it is going multi-platform, because it wouldn't be the first, the Ori games. The Ori games hit the Nintendo Switch, if you remember.
I thought they were multi-platform before they hit the Switch.
Yeah, but
No.
they still did.
Yeah, no, they were always Microsoft published games.
Hmm.
Like Moon Studios pushed for Switch versions, which is why we got them. Like, and that's another thing. No consensus on what platforms are actually getting things. People are just, presuming that it's going to be the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch, or apparently like there might have been a ratings classification in Australia about it, but that might have been debunked. This is the problem with rumors. They may be true, they may be not true. I'm like, or they may be true, but plans get changed. Like, the point is, the strongest rumor seems to be pointing to Hi-Fi Rush on the Nintendo Switch. Like, and only the Nintendo Switch, which would be keeping in what Microsoft has done before. It's like Microsoft is viewing this as about the same field as the Ori games. It's like, it's not an indie project, but it's like, it's less than AAA. It's less than something that they're using to sell systems for, as opposed to Starfield, which was their flagship game last year.
Yeah, Starfield, they desperately wanted people to get into Game Pass or get an Xbox for it.
That
Yes.
plus at least one side of their mouth has said that has said that they don't really consider Nintendo a competitor.
It depends on the side of the argument that day.
Like I said, at least one side of their mouth has said.
Yeah. Like, now on the other side of the coin, there has been other rumors about Sea of Thieves being the game, which is a bit more suspect into the whole Game of the Year candidate, because Hi-Fi Rush certainly was on some Game of the Year lists, or was a candidate. I'm not sure if Sea of Thieves was ever like,
I'd
or at least
have
not
to
that
look. I mean, people enjoyed it, but I don't know if I'd go down swinging and say it was the best game of that year.
Like, or are we talking about the best ongoing game, which is a category I'd like the game.
Yeah.
Because I do think Sea of Thieves has ended up on that list.
Maybe, yeah.
Now, so once again, let's break down Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves makes sense from a different perspective. It's a live service / gas game. It's arguably Microsoft's most successful gas game. Like, I'm not sure if we have the numbers on it, but I do know that it's been Rare's most successful game ever. So it's done numbers throughout the years, like to the point where it's still getting regular support. It's also 6 or 7 years old, so it is showing its age a bit. And it's been theorized that Microsoft might be having Sea of Thieves go multi-platform in order to give it a second wind, more or less.
Yeah.
I mean, I
You
will
know-
say showing its age a little bit makes it a pretty good candidate for Nintendo Switch.
Also, to put it back into the popular zeitgeist against whatever is Ubisoft's crack shit is.
Don't get me wrong, I'm still not going to play it, but
Oh yeah.
that's my
Well-
only concern about Hi-Fi Rush on the Switch is, I mean, I think it's artistically strong enough that it will hold up even if the performance is slightly less good, but that's a game that cannot really do frame drop because rhythm...
So here, I did forget to mention this because the other rumor is Hi-Fi Rush on the Nintendo Switch 2, which
is contingent upon the reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2.
Right. And the Nintendo Switch 2 being the Nintendo Switch 2 and not, another, whatever wacky gimmick Nintendo wants to push next.
Yeah.
The Nintendo Burgertron, now with a control that you manipulate by eating it.
I mean, that does sound like the thing that Nintendo could do. It would do. I mean,
Yeah.
these are the things. These are the same people that that thought cardboard was going to be the next big thing.
Yeah.
So, look, nothing is too wacky for these toy makers.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but in regards to Sea of Thieves, right now what I've been hearing is PlayStation only. Because once again, Sea of Thieves might be too advanced for the Nintendo Switch, or it's going to be Sea of Thieves cloud version.
Yeah, we don't need another cloud version of anything. Good lord.
Yeah, now I don't know about that because honestly, the Switch has gotten so many miracle ports at this point, I've actually lost track. I will admit that yes, there have been a lot of rancid ports recently. Looking at you, Switch version of Mortal Kombat 1. Although I will also note that was a port of a goddamn PlayStation 5 Xbox Series X title.
Mm-hmm.
The Nintendo Switch has worked miracles with PlayStation 4, Xbox One era titles.
Yeah.
Like,
because that's about close to where its graphical power is. It's not PS5, Xbox X.
It's not even really PlayStation 4 level, but it's like if you have the right optimizers, if you got the right porting people, you can do it. Like, everything from The Witcher 3 to Nier Automata, Doom. There's plenty of these.
Mm.
It's like Hi-Fi Rush can be done. I'm not saying it's going to look good. I'm like, it's probably going to look compromised. I'm like, that's
with the art style. The
important thing for a successful Hi-Fi Rush on the Switch would be understanding that like performance and frame rate and stuff is important enough to sacrifice a little bit of the aesthetic for, because the art style is strong enough that it can lose a little bit of
and with that cell shading style, we can also still lose some definition and still look good.
Yeah.
Sea of Thieves is a bigger hurdle in the literal sense of the word, because we're talking about not just a live service title, we're talking about an open world or I guess open sea technically, but
it's not quite photorealistic, but it's definitely a lot closer than say Hi-Fi Rush.
Right. Mm-hmm. So that's gonna that would take a lot more effort. I genuinely think if there's if a potential Xbox port is going to miss, it's going to be Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
Just because it might look too rough. Though once again, it could also be Sea of Thieves on the potential Nintendo Switch 2. Anything Nintendo Switch 2 is just pure rumor at this point, because we don't even know if the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be a Nintendo Switch 2. There have been rumors to suggest it is, but once again, it's Nintendo.
Yeah,
Nintendo.
there have been rumors to suggest it is. It would make sense for it to be, which is probably part of why there have been rumors. But this is Nintendo. I was only kind of joking about the controller that you play by eating it.
Meanwhile, as we have the new Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. My point is, like, Hi-Fi Rush and Sea of Thieves going multi-platform makes sense with Microsoft's current philosophies. I'm like, that does not mean that you're going to see Halo Infinite on the PlayStation or Forza Motorsport.
And it certainly doesn't mean they're going to just stop making Xboxes except as a sub-brand of the PC.
Right. Now, if Microsoft goes whole hog on this, it's also not a contradiction because, once again, I have to go back to the whole Activision Blizzard merger. I think it was in the FTC trial that, Microsoft, it came out, or Microsoft said one way or another, Microsoft admitted it hates console exclusives and wishes it didn't have to do them. But here's the thing. I don't think Microsoft is quite ready to give up developing hardware yet. Especially since, Microsoft has definitely shown that they're not getting out of gaming. They've kind of spent a lot of money here.
Yeah.
So, it's not happening. But it's also, Microsoft has admitted that, closing the gap with Sony has proven to be a very, very daunting task. Because, people really do have to re-examine, the year in gaming 2013. I think it's been happening more, but it's like, it was one of the most pivotal years in video gaming, because that was the year where Microsoft took all of the momentum from the Xbox 360 and tossed it into the fucking toilet.
Oh yeah.
To the point where, they were looking to sell off the Xbox brand at one point.
Yeah, because they fucked up so bad with the Xbox One generation.
Yep, because they thought TV was going to be their future.
And then DRM.
Yeah, it turns out they just had to wait for when people were ready for that.
Yeah.
2013, no bueno. 2023, 2024, people are more fine with it.
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't the case, but, it's a lost battle.
Yeah, and I'm going to lament that my PS5 is probably going to be my last console that has a physical media drive.
Yeah,
but that's a topic for another topic of a discussion.
Well, we'll probably get into that on the other show, actually, because we do have.
Yeah, apparently Best Buy is pretty much done with pulling all their.
Yeah, that's exactly
physical mediums.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the entertainment segment on MSP. Anyway, so yeah, I think that'll about do it for this conversation, and indeed that'll about do it for this show. So coming up on the week ahead, let's see, we do have a Friday show planned. It's just I haven't heard back from the guest yet, so it might not end up happening again.
Friday evening, me and Ogre may try and do some more Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Depends on timing on that, though.
Yeah. But currently on Friday, January 12th, we have Claudio of Type Software House. We've been trying to get him on the show for a few months now, but schedules have been out of alignment. Anyway, so we'll see how that goes. And on the Sunday reviews, we'll be having reviews of a Buenos Blob collection, Shadows of Duat, Savant Ascent Remix, and Fluffy Cube. So we do have another episode of MSP planned. So the latest update there is Mac might be hosting it on his channel this week.
And if he's not, we can pick it up.
Yeah. Apparently he managed to find a hotspot in his apartment where he gets enough streaming capability. So we'll see how that goes in about 20 to 45 minutes. Anyway, so until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.